The good news is that we realize this, and we're all working towards a common goal. The problem? We're often doing it independently. There's a need for holistic approaches produced by communities and stakeholders at all levels and across all sectors. And it can only happen when we're all present, all talking in the same room. I have the great pleasure of working with the Global Landscapes Forum, the world's largest science-led platform for sustainable land use, which seeks to do just that. We're breaking down barriers, connecting ideas, and accelerating progress through a movement that puts communities first in addressing landscape-level issues. As a youth coordinator to the forum, my experience has shown me that we don't have enough time to leave a vast majority of our population feeling unsupported and unengaged. I've seen how the Youth in Landscapes initiative has transformed eager students to young, powerful leaders who have returned to their communities to tackle rural migration, promote climate-smart agriculture, increase market access for producers, or become policy advocates. There's an incredible amount of untapped potential in the young people of the world. Those of us in the room only represent a fraction. Our constituencies only represent a fraction. But we're not here to change a fraction of the world. So how do we reach them? How do we continue to ignite small fires in each member of our society? There are a few strategies to spread our work. And I find they start with support, listen, and engage. The first, support. There's a great quote that states, "Most dreams die a slow death." They're conceived in a moment of passion with the prospect of endless possibility, but often languish and are not pursued with the same heartfelt intensity as when first born. Self-organized youth groups transform moments of passion into places of action. They actively fight against cynicism and provide the tools and resources for new ideas to thrive. We cannot underestimate the power of community. We need to actively support the formation of youth-led entities and youth-led and driven areas of work to begin to claim inclusive development. It is not enough to handpick one individual, one spokesperson, and one leader for a seat at the table. It's about awakening and transforming all young people through community and supporting the mechanisms of adequate representation and facilitation through legally mandated and designated spaces. In sum, actively support youth-led organizations. They not only light fires, but they keep them alive. The second, listen. Once the communities are built and the mechanisms for representation are in place, listen. Use marginalized groups and young people as indicators to whether we are achieving sustainable and resilient communities. Because when our communities are flourishing, young people, young women and girls will be thriving. The third and the most often heard is engage and include young people in decision-making processes and implementation. Let's be clear. You are not handing them a privilege, but conceding to their right. And make no mistake, young people will carry on the work whether they are included or not. And to many, this right is a responsibility bound to their hearts. We're already here and out in the world, dreaming, building, advocating, creating. We're not going to stand and wait for a seat at the table. But I have to be honest. This isn't ideal. We don't want to and cannot do it alone. We don't want to fight for every partnership, every approval, every seat, every dollar. We don't want to forever be sidelined in another room, our solutions labeled youth, and our problems, our solutions, touted as surprising accomplishments. I don't want to forever be here, repeating the same things, sounding like a broken uninspired record. Engage. Member states, we are waiting on you. If these groups that are already out there changing the world are not meaningfully engaged, you're missing out on a chance to accelerate change. I've found these strategies useful, but they will only be successful if we hold and believe in the one principal truth, that society benefits from an ever-expanding room of empowered stakeholders, an ever-expanding conversation of people fighting for change. It's time to break down the divisions across sector, across age, to engage in the difficult conversations that will change our world. We've made the mistake of sectioning off our planet, ever dividing it by nation, fragmented by urban and rural areas, segmented into forest or agricultural areas. We have fractured ecosystems and inadvertently denied our communities the right to live in a natural harmony. But don't be fooled. Natural harmony, it's messier than we'd like to believe. Natural harmony involves fiery debates that run through and transform everything in their path. It may mean barren rock and rubble before witnessing a rebirth of early approaches alongside a blossoming of the new. Natural harmony is a stirring, buzzing, incessant noise of different perspectives that all exist to reveal to us that life is flourishing. It may be noisy, messy, and complex in an ever-expanding room of stakeholders, but I assure you, it is exactly where we need to be. I've said this before, we don't have time. So let's not waste our time here. Greet each other, meet each other, and use every ounce of your energy to make the most of this opportunity, but not for yourselves. For those who cannot be here, our brothers and sisters who do not have this privilege. Together, let's make privilege a forgotten word. Thank you.
Wow, that was excellent presentation from the voice of a youth in 2021 ECOSOC Youth Forum. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending from where you are calling from. I am excited, just as you are, for this special last day of the 2 days United Nations ECOSOC Youth Forum and the last day of the 3-day program of Youth Gather Global. We are gathered here once again at the Youth Gather Global side event of ECOSOC Youth Forum. I just want to remind us that Youth Gather Global is the initiative of the Center for SDG Global Education USA, the Sub-Saharan Open University, and His Royal Highness Shindo Foundation, Yamusa Foundation, on engaging youth for the decade of action, getting the youth involved. And I'm glad the speaker of 2018, who was a youth, has called on engaging youth. And all the speeches, starting from the opening remarks of the Secretary General of United Nations yesterday, the UN Youth Envoy, the President of UN General Assembly, and every other presentation is releasing words, and also from presentations that spoke at our event yesterday, are calling on youth to be more resourceful, to get engaged, to get involved, and stop calling themselves leaders of tomorrow. Let your leadership start from today. And that's what we are trying to do, to engage you to an action with the decade of action. So this is the last day, and I'm excited. We are going to hear from experienced youth advocates, experienced diplomats, and as well as having knowledge about the work of the United Nations General Assembly for the youth across the world. So today is a point of reflection on what we are doing, engaging the youth across the world to be reflective, looking at themselves, not just carrying myself, I'm a youth, but getting involved, reflecting, having a new thought process, and getting more prepared to face the challenges, especially now that we are having the challenges of the COVID-19. So things are no longer normal as before, but what can you make as a youth in this present normal? So we are trying to look at a decade of action, building a resilient recovery and the model United Nations education. So it's interesting that we have points to look at, looking at the Sustainable Development Goals. We looked at the Sustainable Goal 8, 2, 1, I think 16, 11, all those SDGs that reflected on the theme for the Youth ECOSOC Youth Gather this year seems to be a bedrock of what we want to address in trying to provide our youth network who are from across the world, Africa region, Caribbean region, Asia, Europe, North America. We have network of our youth. And I'm glad that the regional representatives are all here. So equipping ourselves to what we have to know or what you already know to get prepared for the next year, especially making commitments to the decade of action. So without wasting much of your time, I would like to call on the chair of this event, the opening section, Mary Collette, who is the director, Building Institutions and Partnerships of Youth Gather Global, to take over the program.
Well, thank you, Madam Chancellor, and what an honor it is to be with everyone today, and it's just a privilege, really. And what a wonderful way to open this session today with comments from the youth that we just heard. Love that passion and enthusiasm. I'm old enough now that I can really appreciate that passion that she has. As the person who on Youth Gather board is responsible for helping to develop partnerships, I wanted to have a couple of minutes just to kind of share my viewpoints, and then I'm going to roll it right into Dr. Anamika. So the partnerships to me are the keystone of an organization's ability to grow and create unity on a particular subject or a particular space. Here's a quote from Oliver Wendell Holmes: "Many ideas grow better when transplanted into another mind than the one where they sprang up." And I love the way that is presented, because that's our idea here. That's what we're trying to do, is to transplant what we are thinking of with youth to other people around the world and have them come together with us to help solve this big problem. When we can take what we know, who we know, and how we know, and fit it neatly into a package that becomes our partnership product, then we can move bigger mountains. And today we want partners who can help us move those mountains. For financial partners, we must show finances and projects and be particular about who we wish to entertain as such partners. I have a keen eye for that. As we solicit event sponsors by sharing agendas and demographic projections, we can continue doing that and make our events a little more flourishing and probably expand those around the world. What we can and are doing right now is curating a collection of organizational collaborators, endorsers of the Youth Gather mission, who see value in putting their name and their trust in us in them. We are actively having these conversations around the world with youth organizations and related organizations, such as refugee foundations, that sort of thing, that have interest in jointly blending their programs and possibly serving in liaison roles among our advisors. Within the last year, Dr. Anamika and myself started a mentoring program that has begun to grow legs. We are referring to it as Daughters Global. mentoring. And our pilot includes a familiar 14-year-old, Namara Lawanza, who we've had as a speaker on a panel a couple of times, 14, mind you, from Tanzania, who has shared her speaking talent with us. We have recently added Shatali Singha, 17 years old, from India. Both girls that were brought to us by their fathers for some assistance in mentoring them forward toward greater opportunity. These two young leaders in the making were grooming to do really good things in their countries and in their communities. We have tasked the two young ladies to produce a girls' global poetry project to be delivered to the United Nations on a day that coincides with an appropriate event. We hope through Youth Gather, and to have that endorsement and to move that project forward. We are already gathering some steam from young girls across the world who will enter their poems into this project. And it looks really good because some of the people who are bringing those poems forward are actually the heads of organizations we might partner with. So this is really a really good thing. It's twofold. We get something good for the girls and for the UN, and we also get that liaison with these potential partners. In closing, we've just begun, but we're already moving mountains, evidenced by the last few days. What a glorious showing of support. Now we need to transplant this intelligence, passion, and dedication into the minds of those who can help us go further faster. And relationship building, and it is the work of a ministry, really. Relationship building is that when it is done for good. It's my belief that ultimately it is our mission on planet Earth to get to unity and peace by solving big problems together. It's important for our own human existence. In service we must be, and that is where we are. That's what we're doing. Just watch us grow over the next decade and expand and support. So God bless you all. And I want to turn it over now to Prince Dr. Osita Anamika to give us a recap from the last day or so.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, my friend and colleague Mary, and I want to thank the Chancellor for Youth Gather Global for having opened so brilliantly, sharing the 2018 ECOSOC program with us. I want to quickly go back to yesterday because the Chancellor mentioned it, and maybe some of the things that happened yesterday will give you an idea of what we're looking forward to today. When we finished with the special guest statements, which featured three very brilliant guests, we had a keynote presentation where Dr. CEO Anuku started something that will help Youth Gather Global grow the strength and capacity of our young people. Sufjan Christian from Educate First in the UK, came with the alternate school program for Africa program, and then we have the actuary from South Africa, Ngobese, give us reviews about youth in Africa and the future. Let me not waste your time, but goes very directly to the debate, to the open debate that took the day. We had youth representing Taiwan, Egypt, South Africa, Ethiopia, Ghana, Guyana, Antigua, Venezuela, Nigeria, and of course, Libya. These young men and women took the stage to show how much leadership strength that they have acquired working with us. And we're so happy to announce that within the next few years, within this decade of action, we promise you that Youth Gather Global is going to present to the world capable presidents, prime ministers, and ministers who are going to lead their nations to the future. And in doing that, Youth Gather Global also pledges to support them and then help them create the future that we're looking for. The future that we want is in our hands, and we want to be able to work with these youth to make sure that we get to the end successfully, and also make sure that the nations that are coming from will listen to them and help them help the nations grow. I want to get back now to my colleague, Mary. Mary, please continue with the program while we promise our guests today a very wonderful second day. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Anamika, very much. We have Brian Smith, who is Youth Advisory Consultant in Guyana, and talking about resilient recovery from COVID-19, promoting youth economic, social, and environmental dimension of sustainable development for the decade of action. So Brian, if you will step forward.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chair. I'm pleased this morning to be able to contribute to the efforts of Youth Agenda. I'd want to first open by saying that young people at this time are experiencing both the best of times and the worst of times. We are born in a period of transition from analog to digital, from improved access to education, improved sexual and reproductive rights, improved advocacy. And we were also born at a period when we were witnessing the effects of a pandemic, effects of disrupting climate change, living through the disruptions of supply chains with the effects that the pandemic has brought to the globe. Madam Chair, it is youth to whom the resources of our nation will be bequeathed to. It is them that are the next generation. But the argument is presented that they are the ones that now must be involved in the process of renewal, in the process of rebuilding post-pandemic. It is absolutely necessary for young people to be able to move forward from just being a consulted demographic, in this decade of action especially, to the actual gears and cogs which policy must move and which will impact us and the future generations. If I may say that my country is in India and in South America is fortunate to have a large youth population. And as such, as an emerging oil and gas economy, there are rapid developments happening. Our challenges of access to education, especially in remote and communities, were exacerbated by the disruptions caused by the pandemic. You know, we couldn't have schools and training centers populated as they used to be, which has had its effect on about 2 years of a lack of instruction or reduced instruction. Our government has committed at a very early priority to prioritize its efforts to improve access to education by investing in scholarship opportunities, because they've seen that remote learning is one of the critical pillars on which our capacity to build back from a pandemic will rest on. Coastal states like mine, like the ones in which I live in, will have a greater impact with climate change and the rise of sea levels. The resources of our countries, therefore, must not only be managed in a way to mitigate, but also must be managed in a way to include young people. Because in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, they will be the ones who are living through the heights of the climate crisis, through the heights of the rising sea level, which was going to threaten habitation, which will threaten our productive sector. My country has agriculture as one of its greatest industries. Countries which have their cities on coastal areas will have to deal with rising sea level. And it's the young people who must be engineers, who must be informed of current policy, who must be included in current policy to be able to be equipped and prepared for those challenges as they will come about. Madam Chair, in this decade of action, it becomes imperative for states to adopt a clear and robust strategy to ensure there is meaningful involvement of young people in economic structures. We must equip young people with the skills to impact a modern workforce, which includes equitable access to training and education opportunities, which are designed to be relevant in this new world. The role of technology in education delivery especially will come into sharp focus, and in the support of technical and material from our international partners to bridge that digital divide are critical elements. I can't stress on it enough in building a resilient recovery pathway. The pandemic will pass and we will have to live with it, but we must also recognize the social impact that it has had on our young people, from job loss, from mental health challenges, and their capacity to become productive members of society. The trauma even of uncertain post-pandemic future.
I'm sorry, pardon me, if you just wind up.
Sorry, no problem.
Next 30 seconds. Yeah.
The challenges of a post-pandemic future will directly be affected by our efforts to prepare young people now. Madam Chair, the decade of action necessitates a collaborative effort of our states. Globalization has been humanity's greatest evolution, and we must work together to ensure the young people are placed in strategic boards and representation to affect policy formulation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and could not agree more with you. I do a lot of mentoring, and I believe in experiential and opportunistic mentoring. So thank you so much. We have next Ian Campbell, who's a CEO and founder of Manchester Global Solutions Incorporated, and he's speaking with us on Youth Forum Model Legacy Education. So Ian, you have the floor.
Good morning, and thank you very much for the opportunity. I'd like to do a screen share. So if that's available, I'd like to get that started.
I'll give you a sharing permit.
Okay.
Go ahead.
In the process, just would like to acknowledge Dr. Okika and others who are doing such a phenomenal job putting this together. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I look forward to any feedback that folks may have after the presentation. Excellencies, honorables, princes, chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It's a pleasure to be presenting before you on this topic of social emotional learning. Going through a pandemic, 3.5 billion of the population have been impacted globally, and the other half of the globe is suffering from the impact of their loved ones and people that they work with, and just their daily life being disrupted. And I want to focus and speak specifically to the youth in this presentation because it's the youth have to really take ownership and leadership, as the presentation from earlier demonstrated. Such a phenomenal presentation by a young lady who's here from Ethiopia as a refugee and has been doing phenomenal developing and presenting herself at the UN. And congrats to everyone who took part in that. My name is Ian Campbell, CEO of Manchester Global Solutions and former Chief of Staff to Member on Capitol Hill, entrepreneur, represent foreign governments, lobby business development, and do other work in reference to entrepreneur, government, and making the world a better place. The presentation will go into CSEL, benefits of SEL, the 5 competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsibility, decision-making, and a summary. And this quote by William Shakespeare, "All the world is a stage, and all the men and women merely players." They have their exits, their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. His acts being 7 ages. It reminds me of the role that as a young person we're going to be playing in our life and different positions that we will have to fill. The 3 C's of SEL are conditions, competencies, character. The conditions for cultivating social and emotional learning and community members' mental and physical well-being are in place, including a positive school climate and culture. The competencies or skills are taught and reinforced through explicit SEL instructions in the classroom, but not only exclusively in the classroom, but in the classroom, in the community, in the churches, and more specifically at home. The character traits of individual students are developed as an outcome of the learning in supportive environments where instructions is provided around the SEL skills. I'd like to take 1 minute out to play this video. And have you guys listen in for a quick second.
We're not hearing it. Ian, you might want to move on for the time's sake because we're not able
Yes,
to.
since you're not hearing it, I'm going to have just cancel and go back to the the slide. So basically, the slide reinforced the benefits of social emotional learning. It spoke to the advances that the children would have after getting this type of supportive environment in which for them to develop and grow. It talks about the global impact and lifelong impact that this type of social emotional learning development led to for the students. Now, this is the Castle model. This framework it shows the social emotional learning in the middle and its impact on self-awareness, self-management, but it then automatically goes to the classroom and then the school and family, caregivers, in the community. I think this is a great model, but it puts a lot of emphasis on the classroom and the schools, in which the teachers and the school already have so many metrics they're looking to fill just to get the students through the doors. The real teacher is the family and the parents, reinforced with the community, brought into the school, and led to the classroom. I think that that understanding of how the social emotional component enhances a child's development long-term growth is significant. SEL advances educational equity and excellence through authentic school, family, community partnerships. And that is to be emphasized because it's not just on the teachers, it's everybody has to take part. And more so for the individuals, the students themselves, that's where the true change comes in. For the 5 areas we're going to jump into very quickly: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision making.
Hey, Ian, we need to wrap this part of it up, and this is such a good presentation. I'd hate to lose this. Dr. Akika, would it be appropriate for us to be able to get this sent as an email to us all?
I did share it early this morning, and
right.
it can be, if it could be made available, that'd be great. But
that would be wonderful.
If to skip to where the emphasis is on the classrooms, emphasis needs to be on the high quality SEL instructions. It has 4 elements represented by the acronym SAFE. Sequence, following a coordinated set of training approaches to foster development of competencies. Active, the emphasizing active forms of learning to help students practice and master their skills, with the focus on implementing curriculum and intentional emphasis, the development of SEL competencies, and defining, targeting specific skills, attitude, and knowledge. Because the teachers are not going to be able to maintain and continue this solely in the classroom. It has to be mentors and individuals to step up to truly be responsible for their own learning and activities. With that, I'd like to address any questions you may have in the chat and really encourage a student to take leadership, to be mentors to others, and to be the change that they seek to create. Thank you.
Wonderfully said. Definitely a pay it forward situation with who we mentor. Thank you so much, Ian. And I look forward to being able to review the presentation again at some later time. This is wonderful. So thank you. Like
you.
to kind of move on to Dr. Jacob Abbey, Executive Director of Jacobs Abbey Global Institute for Leadership Studies, and who will speak on reengineering, let's see, leadership, diplomacy, and education, I do believe. So Jacob, if you're ready.
Hi, how are you, Mary? Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, Dr. Kika, and I see my good friend Ishmael Dodu there as well. So, hi. So briefly, because of time, I also shared my PowerPoint presentation this morning. I don't know if that's available, but for want of time, we can move on, and whenever it's ready, it can be shared. Dr. Kika asked me to speak on.
Go ahead and share it yourself. You have the permit to.
Sure, I can do that. Give me a second here. Oh, well, I don't see that in my, okay, there you go. Okay, so, all right, so quickly to begin, yeah, my name is Dr. Samuel Jacob Sabi, and I'm currently based in Washington, D.C. area. A quick brief bio of myself. I hold a PhD in public health policy with a special concentration on global diplomacy, global health diplomacy. Since this slide will be shared with all of you, I won't waste too much time on that, but I want to go straight to the presentation as I've been asked to. So first of all, I want us to look at the importance of leadership, diplomacy, education, and the importance of engaging young people in the study of diplomacy and preparing and equipping them to take on today's leadership. And I like the fact that Dr. Kika said in her premise that young folks are not leaders of tomorrow, but they are partners of today's leadership. And so in order to do that, we also have a responsibility to ensure that a critical element of effective leadership is instilled in them. And at the Jacobs Abbey Global Institute for Leadership Studies, one of the things we provide is the ability to equip young people, one, to desire the interest in diplomatic studies, and also to ensure that they build enough capacity for possession. So a critical element of effective leadership is the ability to forge and maintain collaborative working relationship within institutions, as well as the communities. And this requires both intellectual approach to positioning leaders within a broader policy setting framework. This is important because we strongly believe that in order for young people to be able to meet the expectation, it is not just passion. Passion is great, passion is good. But when you don't have the skill set, you get into a position where you are unable to effectively deliver. And that is the reason why our institute focuses more on providing both conceptual and practical framework for helping emerging leaders to understand and develop collaborative competence to effectively complete their work or tasks. And diplomacy requires all those skill sets. As I mentioned, I'm sure majority of us on this platform have the requisite skills to work effectively in the diplomatic circle. But it does not just happen. it can only be effective when you have the needed skill set. Being equipped as a young diplomat also requires leadership and collaboration. And from our standpoint, we believe that within the leadership ecosystem, leaders are recognized as critical for ensuring inclusive and equitable education and lifelong learning within the institutions that we've been asked to oversee. While the context and while the content and the nature of responsibility falls on the leader, it is also important that young people understand the fact that the tax associated in diplomacy, it's no joke. Most of the time, young people do not really understand the fact that to whom much is given, much is expected of. And so in order for you to be able to effectively work within that circles, you need to understand the importance of leadership and also the importance of collaboration. Within the diplomatic cycle, you cannot work on an island. You have to work within a collaborative effort with other institutions and other bodies. And so one of the things that we do is that creating collaborative framework and strong working relationship within institution is considered as a key strategy for improving institutional leadership. And such relationship requires a common vision and a common goal. And that is what we ensure that every individual who want to work within that circle of global diplomacy needs to understand that the equipment of their skill set, it's practically needed. I want to rush this slide because of time. The next phase that I want us to look at, it's influences on the abilities to lead. Well, in every sphere of leadership, the expectation is to lead, to provide guidance, to provide influence. And so leadership diplomacy education helps to train and to provide important responsibilities that support the contention that an effective leader must not only be a superhero as it may be perceived by those around them, but be able to create an enabling environment for strong direction into leadership. And however, the ability to lead, to provide effective leadership is mediated by a number of factors, including, of course, personal characteristics, political influences, institutional context, socio-cultural settings, which means that the nature of being a leader within the diplomatic cycles varies. And the individual needs to get that practical understanding that leadership differs across board. And so every individual, especially young people, as are focused on this presentation, needs to understand that you need to spend a lot of time in acquisition of knowledge and skill set and identify mentors who will be able to provide you the skill set needed so that when the opportunity comes for you to serve in this important role, you are able to combine both the leadership skill set, the requisite education needed, and the culture to be able to perform effectively as is expected.
Dr. Abby, if you can wind up.
That's right. Thank you. And so to wrap up, I will say that, let me go straight to the end of the slide to say that to wrap up, I will say that it is not enough to encourage young leaders to forge collaborative relationship without adequate attention to whether or not they have the ability to effectively do so. Diplomacy education is built on the recognition of diverse cultures, perspectives, and settings. And by so doing, young people with the acquisition of skills and knowledge will be in a unique position to collaboratively resolve problems and conflict as and when it comes their way. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I couldn't present, but I think I did enough within the time scope.
It was beautiful. And a very, very nice segue into the next speaker. So thank you so much. That's funny. I don't think a lot of people realize that diplomacy is so much a part of building leadership in youth. So thank you for bringing that point home so eloquently. So we have now Dr. Christine Kozak. I'm going to mess up the name, Kozachek or Kozachek. How do I pronounce that? Oh, you're muted. If you'll unmute. Yeah. Let's see. We can't hear you. So if you'll get your audio on, I think at the bottom you should have a icon. There you go. I think I can hear you.
Now? Can you hear me now?
Perfect. Yes.
Thank you. Kozachuk.
Kozachuk. Okay, I should know this.
Yes.
Founder, Every Child or Every Girl Wins Institute. I am excited to hear from you. And about sustainable and resilient recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic that promotes the economic, social, and environmental dimensions of sustainable development with a focus on the girl child. So welcome, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank the UN dignitaries, youth ambassadors. I personally want to thank Ambassador Ada Akika and all protocols. My name is Dr. Christine Kozachuk, and I am the founder of Every Girl Wins Institute, and I'm also the founder of Her Right. It's the world's largest life literacy and civility culture of honor organization around the world. You may be asking, what is life literacy? Life literacy is a different form of education. They do it physically, not just academically. Academically means the training of the development, a different mindset to the teaching of entrepreneurship. Example of life literacy skills is like farming, sewing. It's a physical skills that they do for themselves. By learning these skills, they can manage their own economy. What I want to ask you today is, what does the world look like for the girl child to be educated in life literacy? It's simple. Every girl wins. And I say there's two different forms of education. The first one is academic, and the second is life literacy education. Educating the girl child is her right. Without education, the training of the human mind is incomplete. Without education, she is confined to walls in her mind with no exit, no entry to the outside world. She is shut down. She's unable to choose the life that she deserves in life. Imagine being closed in a room with no exits, no entry. Imagine this is your mind without education. You have no direction to the exit, to the entry, to live your life as you choose. Now imagine, just think about this, 130 million girls that have no exit or no entry because they are out of school. And she's unable to live the life of her choice. She's unable to live the life she deserves. You don't have to be a woman to realize why education is so important. From hunger to the spread of diseases, we face a variety of challenges that education cannot fight. This was my life. I lived it. Those that are watching today have no idea how my life started. Educating the girl child can make informed choices about her future, about her economy, about her life. She can help her family. She can help her communities. And you know what a lot of people don't realize is by educating them, they can fuel the economy. You know, for many families experiencing financial hardship, child marriages reduces the economic burden, but it ends up being more difficult for the girl child to gain financial independence because she doesn't have an education. She doesn't have an education in life literacy. I was one of those child brides, and I quit school in the 7th grade. It was difficult for me to gain financial independence until I went back to school and marched myself right out of poverty. Education is extremely important, but so is life literacy. You know, given the rapid rate of the way this world is changing right now, they have to adapt to critical thinking. They have to adapt to critical adjusting fast and adjusting quickly to the world and the way it is changing. Because many of them, without the degree, they will not survive. But those that do have the degrees, with life literacy being one of those components with it, they will survive with this. Teaching life literacy will show them leadership, will show them critical thinking. It will they can take on the challenges very quickly, as I stated earlier. One of the challenges they face is poverty. Poverty-related factors that intervene with a girl child's ability to learn is hunger and limited life literacy skills. Resources to life literacy programs shows them how to march out of poverty. For example, life literacy through Every Girl Wins is the teaching and the ability to identify, to understand, to create, and communicate. I was fortunate enough to have learned these 5 ultimate gifts of life literacy early on. This was my key to success. One of the challenges they face is poverty, poverty-related factors that intervene. For example, life literacy through is, life literacy programs help poverty with the girl child and increase things with her. Life literacy through like farming, life literacy programs can help end the poverty. They need to be educated in different areas of life, such as how to plant a garden to increase their income. They can, if they learn how to plant a garden through the income, they won't go hungry. If they had in last year, when it closed down last year, COVID-19 closed down, they were more people dying of hunger than they were of the COVID-19. So if they were taught life literacy on how to do farming, they could have planted a garden. They could have been very self-sufficient. They would have been able to bring the income in to their family, and they wouldn't be dying from starvation. They would not be dying. And that is the saddest part of so many girl children and youth not understanding life literacy and how it works. They understand the academic part, but they don't understand the life literacy part. And today I've spoken on 2 different types of education, academic and life literacy. With just the teaching of academics, we still have a problem. Why not add another component to this? Why not add life literacy to the academic part? How does that change the world for the girl child? I believe my solution is the solution of adding that component to academics, to life literacy, to the academic part. There is a high cost without life literacy for the girl child. With this, I know that every girl can win with life literacy. But my solution, I totally believe that is the right component for them. Not only for farming, they can they can be taught sewing, anything physical that can add on to the academic part can help them succeed in life. The next is equity. It's her right for equity. We have been fighting this for decades. For her right to have education, for her right to do whatever it is that she needs to do in life. One of the definition of equity is gender equality, also known as sexual equality or equality for sexes. And we also have a human rights definition and the Human Rights Act. But do you know that when I went to look for a her right definition, there is not a her rights definition. So I created one. Her right is the right to freedom and equity worldwide from birth till death. It's her right to receive the same education as males. Gender equity refers to promoting fairness in education as well as confronting stereotypes and biases that are historically limited as students' potential. It's her right to be taught life literacy. Life literacy would not only educate the girl child, but this would give her additional resources to better her life. And many of us know having an academic, having a degree, you can't eat that degree. That degree will make you starve if you do not know life literacy in order to know how to survive physically on yourself, knowing how to survive doing other things as farming, as sewing, other things that will help with that economic degree. The first step to success in life literacy is to determine what is keeping them back. Once identified, they understand where it comes from and how to let go and move forward in life. Once identified and understood, the next step to show her is how to take action on her goals. It's all about shifting her mindset out of poverty to access education in her own rights. It's her right to know that she can have her basic needs. It's her right to know that she can have the entrepreneurship that she wants to do. And so she will be able to create her own economy. They need to be educated in these areas just in case another pandemic shuts down. Now, yesterday I heard a young youth from, I think he was represented from South Africa. He was talking about entrepreneurship and mentorship. Last month on International Every Girl Wednesday, my organization gave 13 youth business coaching scholarships to girls in 9 different countries. These girls had already started their entrepreneurship programs or innovative. They were also innovative programs. These girls has the mind to create this, but through life literacy programs like mine, they can be taught how to start it from business plans to different plans that they can put together to be able to assure that that business that they have created will succeed in life. Then there needs to be more of that going on as mentoring these young men and these young women on entrepreneurship, and we need to be mentoring them and guiding them in the right direction, because without that, their business is going to fail. They have to have the right structure in order to do that. Now, once they identify and understand, the next step is to show how to take actions on their goals. It's all about shifting that mindset. Gender equality can be reduced through giving girls equal access to education. We all know with the right tools, the girl child will succeed in life. You know, all girls from the age of 3 to 100 needs to be educated in academics and life literacy. The earlier they start, the more successful that they become. So in closing, let's give them an open room. Let's give them an entry and let's give them an exit. Let's give them the funds. Let's give them the mentorship. Let's give them the encouragement to start with entrepreneurship, to start with life literacy programs, to start with an academic education, because no, it is her right. It is her choice. It is where she can live the life that she deserves. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Doctor. It's this is quite a story, and I would like to get with you sometime later and hear more of your story, because I think I can hear the passion,
Right.
and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So thank you. So we would like to move on now to Princess Shepi Matlang, Managing Director of Maleria Shepherd Business Consultancy out of South Africa. So Princess, Your Highness, if you're available to speak.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mary, and greetings to everyone. Thank you very much to Christine. You have already done the first section of my talk, so I'll be able to just capitalize on the few moments that I have, because we are talking within the same frame here about the girl child. So I just would like to cover it perhaps and speak on behalf or advocate for the minority group. These are the women and the girl children and people of disability. And more so as well, let us speak about the people of the disenfranchised communities. These are the people that even when we are saying they're in the urban areas and yet they are in the squatter camps, yet they are in the locations. And we are talking more also on the rural, because even when the girl child has got access, but we focus more on those that are in the urban and they have access to all these. So now that Christine has already addressed the challenges that we face, because these are common challenges, they are global. Being the advocate for over 2 decades of youth and being the mentor and the coach for youth, and I was so happy yesterday, I was nearly tearing when I see how the youth that we have been working together, they've grown to take up the global stages and bringing in quality contribution as well. And I'm so very much happy, and I was so proud as well to say our youth, this is what they are bringing. So now taking straight to the effect of COVID-19 in our communities that are facing a girl child, that are facing our children. So I'd like to zoom in and talk about the challenges within the household, the devastating effect of the COVID-19 within the household. We have seen the job losses. With these job losses, then it means then the parents or the caretakers, they now have nothing to even be able to support their families. With this then comes the frustration of these adults. We will see now the substance abuse. We will see also just violence within the families. We will see poverty. We see hunger. And these are now even exacerbated, even though they were already there. They're exacerbated because of the pandemic. We can never speak about sustainable development if we are not including the woman, if we are not including the very one who is the bearer of order in our communities, the one who is able to turn just one potato and feed the whole nation. So when we see all these effects that are being, how do I say, forced on our children, we see children being neglected. We see children now, their sense of security being compromised. We see children trafficking. Let us not forget that. World, I would like to really focus and I would like to draw our attention to that. This is one challenge that we've been dealing with, but now all of us collectively, let us draw our attention to this child trafficking. Yes, in some other parts of our continent, we see mothers, because of hunger, because of poverty, resorting to selling their children, their girls, to slavery. Perhaps they are thinking that $1 or $10, it could take them somewhere. But these are all the effects of what we've been dealing with. They also just do not know where will the solution be coming from. So it becomes even easier to just sell your child. I don't think they are doing this because really they don't care about their children. I would like to believe that those mothers, they suffer throughout their lives. We see as well the children that are leaving school. Now I'm talking about in more than 15 years of my involvement within the communities as well. There are there is one community, we call it Zonkizizwe. Those that are from South Africa, they'll relate to what I'm talking about. Already about 7 years ago, 10 years ago, we were already seeing, because of the HIV, the effects of HIV/AIDS, child-headed families, about 5% in the community. And now that number has increased. So you will see now these children having to leave school and go and try and find how to support the siblings. These are the challenges that perhaps they differ, yes, according to the regions where we are. But I just would like to bring to our attention. So now we see all those childhood health, we see teenage pregnancies, because they don't fall pregnant. I don't think they plan to do that, but when they are having to support their siblings, there are those men that will take advantage of this poverty, of this lack of resources. So these are all the things. And then in one of the communities where we were going to be providing the sanitary towels and all those things. Now there were children that the daughters that we had taken to adopt them, or I don't know how you call it. And when they fell pregnant, they told us, we were asking them really genuinely, what could be the reason? They said it is all very good to bring the school uniform, all very good to bring us food parcels once a month. But then on daily basis, there are other needs that are not taken care of. So it makes them now to resort into, giving into the men that are needing to be having sex with them. And then there is these amounts that differ with a condom or without the condom. That devastated me to the core. I actually wanted to even neglect the project because I just thought I have failed. So let us move on now to the solutions. This is where the sustainable goals are coming in. I would like to appeal mostly to our indigenous community, because this is the community where I play a role in. To say the indigenous community, let us all take our roles and responsibility. While it is the responsibility of all of us in the communities, all of us leaders that are here, but let us also appeal to our indigenous. We do have a voice of influence as indigenous people. We do have a voice of making a decision and changing status quo. In our own values of Ubuntu, we have never had this word orphans, because we have known that when a child has lost the father, that widow and the children, they will be taken care of within the family structures, within the communities. We've never had where we are having orphanages, where we are turning our children into the centers. Let us go back to those, because it worked. All of us, we were collectively taking care of each other. Everybody was equal. We are speaking about equality. Let us even look at that. This was not just a concept to us, it was always, it has been our lifestyles. It is in our values to be in good standing with everybody, to make sure that what you have, you share with others, to make sure that you respect everybody. This violence, gender-based violence, what has happened to that respect that we've always known about? What has happened to respecting even our children? We have always grown in the environment of the villages. We have grown with our cousins, with our brothers, living in the same house that was not a 10-story house, even though it may have been 11 of us, but we respected each other. None violated the other. We had never heard of such. What happened to those values? Let us look back at them. Let us implement them. The sustainable goals, I don't want to pick just 1 or 2, 3. Us as adults, us as the leaders in the communities, all 17 of them, they matter. All 17 of them, whether it's to climate change, whether it's to be looking after our environment. We are the people of agriculture in Africa. We are people that revere our farming. We revere our animal, because we know out of that animal, out of that cow, we get the milk. We are able to support our families. That also, it already speaks to that. We know we have agriculture. Every household here through the project that I take care of has got isivande, which is the food garden. Others, they call it kitchen garden. Every household, we have taught all the mothers. That is why I say so that we cannot speak about the girl child and divorce the mother. We are bringing in the mother, because what happens to the mother, it affects this child. So now social to all of us to take responsibility. The leadership positions that we hold, it is all very good, and I love the presentation, my leaders. I love us bringing in all these, but let us also bring it to simplicity, to the chunks and sections that are attainable, and bring it down to our rural people, to our women that, yes, they may not be so literate, but let us bring that literacy. In our environment as well, we taught about 100 women just in 2019 into 2020, the business management skills. Bring it to basics so that everybody can be able to be brought up to the level where they are also resourceful. The collaborative efforts in this decade of action, aligning ourselves with all 17 goals. The one that I like, which is encompassing about partnerships, is the sustainable goal number 17. It is all our responsibilities in this decade of action, leaving nobody behind. I would like you to bold in those words and underline them. Economically, let us support the small, medium enterprises that are led by women. if you look in our continent, you will see that as women, we are very enterprising. We are people that are good in lobbying. That is why our churches are full of us. We do good in networking. We do good in bringing everybody together. You know, if you say there is the United Nations Youth Forum platform already, I just go out there and spread the word and bring all my sisters and bring the community together. So by corporate, the corporate, I'm appealing to the corporate businesses also as well, all that environment to support these small businesses that are led by women. Because when you empower a woman, you are empowering the whole nation. I come from those hands. I come from that lineage of other women, the elderly women, even some they didn't go to school, and yet they produce somebody who went along to go and acquire education and have degrees. Now, within the social environment, humanitarian way, I'm also saying to the indigenous communities, let us take our roles and play the roles in all levels. The projects that are being brought into our communities, let us not only focus in our families as indigenous people, the chief, the king, or the queens. Let us look and spread, because that is our responsibilities, that is our role, to look after the community holistically. How will it be if I am in the jet or driving this very nice car, and yet next door to me there's a school that is so dilapidated? I don't think I can sleep well, not in this frame of mind that I'm at. So I'm appealing to that. The projects that are benefiting women and children. And then also within the indigenous as well, let us also resist these practices that are not favoring life. We are human beings. We are to advocate for humanitarians. We are to advocate for lives. Any practices that under the auspices of saying this is our culture, I don't think our culture has ever spoken about devastating lives or perishing lives. So let us also resist those, and let us not marry our children too early. We know that we are already cutting out the life of a child. You know, we are entrenching and trembling upon their rights as well. Let us be the advocate of the children's rights, women's rights, and also the girl children. Let us also punish severely those that are brought into our traditional courts that have been violating our girls. Let us not have mercy on them. So we know we have authority. So that is why I'm appealing to this community, because I don't think, Mary, you can be able to speak to us, but it takes us to speak to one another, to hold each other accountable as well. Access to primary health care. This is what a girl child needs. This is what our women need. We need to also have access to those. Let us equip one another as well, so that we are speaking on equality, the boy child and the girl child, so that none leaves the other behind. Then we will have a family that is healthier and a society that is healthier. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, to achieve the sustainable goals, and we will truly say these are sustainable, not just goals. We all have a responsibility to be advocates of those, all 17, like I said. I wouldn't want us as adults to pick just one. But however, if one you can do well on it, let us do it. We need to hold each other accountable, even as the United Nations, all our member states. What are we doing? How are we supporting the organizations like ourselves? You know, even the society that are saying we are all working together. How are we supporting those? United Nations, we are appealing to you. Let it come down to all of us, not just only to a section of other people, right? In terms of practical implementation, we need accountability. We need to have a dialogue and saying, how far are we going with this? And if there is any hurdle or no movement or no progress, somebody has to be held accountable. Somebody has to give us the reasons why. Take ownership of the development, all of us in the society, all of us leaders. There has to be those goals where we are all saying, when we come, perhaps these, I would like to believe this is not the last one. We need to say from the last month that we have spoken, what has been the progress? This needs to be not just the talking, but the efforts that are saying we are going to be committing to them. In this decade of action, let us all make sure that we leave no one behind. And these are the principles of Ubuntu. We live with these principles, the values. Nobody should be left behind. We must all, when we speak equality, we are saying we are all sharing. No one should be higher than the other in wealth. share the prosperity. There is so much. Us in Africa, really, we play with our diamonds, we play with our golds. But really, those that have access to that wealth and prosperity, let us share to everybody and leave no one behind. When I say leave no one behind, I'm talking about the rural community. I'm talking about the indigenous community. Even education, 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 education. In all what our sustainable goals are. We need that. We need our member states to bring us on the table to say, we need help because we are the ones that have got access. We can be the hands and feet. We are already been playing roles in that. But we need the communities to know what are sustainable goals. We need the communities to know what are these human rights. The campaigns need to be delivered by us. With those words, ladies and gentlemen, before Mary can kick me out, I would like to say Kia Leboha. I'd like to say Nyabonga. And thank you very much for the opportunity, Dr. Akiko, and your whole team that for organizing this. And would like to see more of these dialogues, but not only the dialogue. People, when we are talking sustainable development, please make a room for us at the decision-making table. That's what we are saying, not just to be only here, but at the decision-making table, because we are on the grounds. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone.
Wow. That's all I can say. How wonderful. Princess, thank you so much. The passion that you speak with and the truth that you're sharing is so important. And the chat room was just full of conversations applauding what you were saying. So, and it's still coming. I can still see them coming. So fantastic. So thank you so much. And it sounds like the values-based education, if you will, or getting back to the basics of values, to tack on to what Christine was saying, Dr. Christine was saying, is very important. So you're right, getting back to those things that make us inherently human, and that we could share that with each other and protect each other. Wonderful. The next speaker actually is unavailable to us. Dr. Bannister is dealing with some family issues, so we're going to kind of move on the agenda to His Excellency, Mr. Anatolio Ndong Nubu. And he is Permanent Representative Mission of Equatorial Guinea to the United Nations, and he's going to help us understand a few things there. So Your Excellency, if you're available now, we'd like to have you step forward. Give him a second. Your Excellency, if you are available to speak to us.
Ambassador, mute yourself. Ambassador,
Yes, yes. Can you hear me now?
There we are. Hello. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you so much, dear Chair Mary Kulek, Director Building Institution and Partnership Youth Together Global. Dear colleagues, participants, ladies and gentlemen, I am so pleased and honored and appreciative of being here this morning, participating in this virtual meeting on the United Nations ECOSOC Youth Forum Model United Nations General Assembly at the invitation of UNESCO C-Force. Thank you so much. Dear youth, the topic of my presentation is so vast and complex, so that developing it as it should be will require more than the whole day of this session. I will therefore try to do my best and make the difficult exercise of summarizing this topic. The Charter of the United Nations established 6 principal organs of the United Nations: the General Assembly, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, the Trusteeship Council, the International Court of Justice, and the Secretariat. Of these 6 organs, we are going to present the General Assembly and its main committees. The General Assembly is the chief deliberative, policy-making, and representative organ of the United Nations. It is composed of representatives of all member states, each of which has one vote. Decisions on important questions, such as those on peace and security, admission of new members, and budgetary matters, require a two-thirds majority. Under the Charter of the United Nations, the General Assembly discusses any question or matter within the scope of the Charter or affecting the power and function of any UN organ, except where a dispute or situation is being discussed by the Security Council and make recommendation on it. Discuss, and with the same exception, make recommendation on any question related to international peace and security. Consider and make recommendation on the general principles of cooperation in the maintenance of international peace and security, including those governing disarmament and arms regulations. And make recommendation for the peaceful adjustment of any situation, regardless of origin, which might impair friendly relations among nations. The Charter also assigned the General Assembly to initiate studies and make recommendations to promote international political cooperation, receive and consider annual and special Security Council reports and reports from other UN organs. Consider and approve the UN budget, elect the non-permanent member of the Security Councils, the members of the Economic and Social Council, and additional members of the Trusteeship Council when necessary, elect jointly with the Security Council the judges of the International Court of Justice, and on the recommendation of the Security Council, appoint the Secretary General of the United Nations. The selection of the UN Secretary General is subject to the veto of any of the 5 permanent members. The General Assembly regular session begins each year on the Tuesday in the 3rd week of September, counting from the 1st week that contains at least 1 working day. The election of the President of the General Assembly, as well as the 21 Vice Presidents and the chairperson of its 6 main committees, take place at least 3 months before the start of the regular session. To ensure equitable geographical representation, the Presidency of the General Assembly rotates each year among 5 groups of states: African, Asian, Eastern, European, Latin American, and Caribbean, and Western Europe, and other countries or states. In addition, the General Assembly may meet in a special session at the request of the Security Council, a majority of member states, or 1 member if the majority of the members concur. At the beginning of each regular session, the General Assembly holds a general debate, often addressed by the head of state and government, in which member states express their views on the most pressing international issues. Year-round, the work of the United Nations derives largely from the mandate given by the General Assembly, that is to say, the will of most of the members as expressed in the resolution and decision adopted by the Assembly. That work is carried out by the committees and other bodies established by the Assembly to study and report on specific matters such as disarmament, peacekeeping, development, and human rights. Through international conferences called for by the Assembly and by the Secretariat of the United Nations, Secretary General and his staff of international civil servants. Most of the questions are discussed in the 6 main committees, which consider the agenda items referred to them by the General Assembly and prepare recommendations and draft resolution for submission to the General Assembly plenary. These committees, which are 6 and called main committees, correspond to the General Assembly's major fields of responsibility. They are the first committee, disarmament and international security. Since the birth of the United Nations in 1945, the goal of the multilateral disarmament and arms limitation have been central to its effort to maintain international peace and security. The United Nations has given highest priority to reducing and eventually eliminating nuclear weapons, destroying chemical weapons, and strengthening the prohibition of biological weapons, all of which pose a direct threat to humankind. The first committee deals with all these issues around this question. The second committee, economic and financial, international debate on economic and social issues has increasingly reflected the commonality of interest among all countries, rich, poor, in solving the problems that transcend national boundaries. Issues related to refugees population, organized crime, drug trafficking, HIV and AIDS, and climatic change are seen as global challenges requesting coordinated action. Are these, among other items, related issues that deal with this second committee? The third committee, social, humanitarian, and cultural, human rights, humanitarian rights, social and cultural protection, discrimination, xenophobia, racism, social and cultural rights, the right of the minorities, etc., enter within the scope of the issues treated in the third committee. The fourth committee, special, political, and decolonization, nearly 100 nations whose people were formerly under colonial rule or trusteeship arrangement have joined the United Nations as a sovereign, independent state since the United Nations was founded in 1945. Additionally, many other territories have achieved self-determination. The fourth committee covers issues related to special, political, and decolonization, which are yet pending to be settled in Africa, Atlantic, Ocean, and Caribbean, Europe, Pacific, and Pacific territories. Fifth committee, which is the administrative and budgetary, specifically discuss administrative procedure and budgetary allocation to the different program work and functioning of the different organs of the United Nations. Finally, the sixth committee, the legal, among the most wide-reaching achievement of the United Nations is its contribution to the development of international law. Many of the legal instruments developed under United Nations auspices, including treaties, resolution, and declaration, form the basis of the law that govern the relation among the nations. The United Nations has been forefront of the effort to establish a legal framework in such areas as maintaining international peace and security, facilitation in international commerce, protecting environment, regulating the oceans and seas, combating terrorism, and prosecuting international crimes. These efforts are being deployed through discussions in the sixth committee. Madam Chair, I would like to end this presentation by indicating that while some issues are considered directly in the plenary meetings, most of them are allocated to one of these committees. Resolutions and decisions, including those recommended by committees, may be adopted with or without a vote in plenary meetings, usually before the recess of the regular session in December. The General Assembly normally adopts its resolution and decisions by a majority of members present and voting. Important questions, including recommendations on international peace and security, the election of members of some principal organs, and budgetary matter, must be decided by the two-thirds majority. Voting may be conducted as a recorded vote a show hands or roll call vote. While the decision of the Assembly have no legally binding force for governments, they carry the weight of world opinion and the moral authority of the world community. I thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was a whole education for some of us. I really appreciate that for myself, speaking for myself, and I know for others as well. So thank you, sir, very much, very much. We will move on now to Ambassador Felix Ali Karoma and the mission of Sierra Leone to the United Nations, and hear from the ambassador, please. Ambassador, if you're available. Ambassador Karama?
Yes, thank you very much,
Okay.
Dr. Mary Kurek. Just a point of correction, I've actually not the current ambassador for Sierra Leone. I left there about a few years ago. But I want to thank the Chancellor, Dr. Ada Okika, for bringing me into their program for the second time. And I also want to thank you very much for moderating the program. It has been a very fruitful discussion. I've been enjoying the discussion from the various panelists. She asked me to talk on the topic. I'm going to give a whole overview on the operations, procedures, and management of the UNGA, which is the United Nations General Assembly, and how it relates to the youths. Of course, the General Assembly, as it is stated, it's one of the six principal organs of the United Nations. And it forms the major parts or the major place where mostly deliberations are often taken place. And among some of its functions is the fact that they do what we call resolutions, which member states may tend to put forward for discussions on the floor as to certain issues that are affecting countries, the world. And they will be seeking co-sponsorship, that is seeking other states to support those resolutions, or if they could not have those support from member states, then they could take it all by themselves and then they could put it on the floor for discussions. Sometimes they could have the support of the member states and sometimes they could not. And as a result of that, if they couldn't have the support overall support, then it could not become part of the resolutions as accepted by the United Nations. In other cases, they could have what we call policies that they could put forward for discussions. And at some other cases, they discuss the budget for those six organs and other related organs, such as WHO, UNESCO, that are within the United Nations system. Among some of their functions is that they appoint non-permanent members. Non-permanent members are mostly member states that within the UN security system, that is those who are not members of the 5 permanent security members members of the council, Security Council, and those who could just be there for temporary reasons. The GA, the UNGA, is responsible for their appointments. And in other cases, they do appoint the Secretary General of the UN. And in some other cases, they receive reports from the respective United Nations organs, and then those reports are discussed at other committee, subcommittee level. They make recommendations in the form of resolutions. They also ensure that they sit on emergency sessions. These are mostly issues of terrorism and issues of when situations wherein we have a threat to global peace. A specific country could call for an emergency session, and then those sessions could be discussed as to what is actually going on and how they could find out resolution to solve that situation. I mean, these are many among the functions of the General Assembly. But how does it affect the youth, or in what way does youth become part of some of their functions and operations? You realize that, I'll just take few. The resolution and the policy making are very important for the youth, because the resolutions and the policy making, if they are successful, say for example, if a resolution is passed like child trafficking or issues of education or any other issues relating to youth, you realize that most times states domesticate these laws. They take this resolution and conduct it to become part of their laws. And because of that, the youth benefits from some of these laws that are domesticated. And because it becomes part of their national law, and then they will be using it, on the basis of crime, and enforce it. Because mostly, like in the UN, these resolutions do not have too much strength in terms of enforcement. But when they are domesticated by countries, then it becomes, for most cases, it's gained all the strength it needs. Sometimes it will be criminalized, and then people can be imprisoned for some of these crimes. So that is the most important thing when states adopt these resolutions or these policies. Equally so, the budgets, which is also a very important key factor that I need to take as part of how youth benefits, is the fact that when the budgets are placed before the UNGA, that is the United Nations General Assembly, after being discussed, that is, these are budgets, first I must emphasize that these are budgets which are presented by respective organs within the UN system. Budgets for all the organs, and they are mostly discussed by the General Assembly to see how they could allocate those budgets to the various organs. And for example, let's say if a budget is presented by UNESCO or WHO, and these budgets are adopted by the General Assembly, you realize that these budgets are being used and they are being benefited by the youths in their respective country, because WHO do functions in nearly all countries in the world, and UNESCO the same. And so those budgets that UNESCO represents go mainly for those within students, girl child, school feeding programs, girl child education. And WHO also, those budgets that it presents will benefit lactating mothers, children under age and under 5, and a whole lot of other health benefits. So those countries who could be able to access these benefits, and then it could also be a benefit for the youths, because mostly some of their programs and their operations are within the youth outreach, say for example, girl child education. So I believe that by merely taking some of the operations and the functions of the General Assembly, the youth will definitely benefit from some of their outcomes, like I said, like the resolution and budgets. And I'm sure that will also impact the activities of the youth through sustainable development goals. And then the youth could be able to derive much more benefits in terms of sustainable benefits in terms of what these organizations will have to present to them in their hometowns. I think so far so good. I want to say thank you very much, Mary Kuriki. It has been a very pleasant day, and like I said initially, I've enjoyed the topic. Though I came in very late, I must apologize for that. But I've been enjoying the discussions, and all the panelists, I must say thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Wonderful, Ambassador. I think the next section that we're heading into is really to hear from the representatives, Youth Gather representatives. And so there'll be regional voices and open debate. We'll get into some cultural presentations after. So I'm going to turn this back over to Dr. Okika, and she will take it over from there. So thank you.
Wonderful, Mary. Wonderful. Excellent moderation. Thank you for giving you extra job to moderate. You were supposed to stop at the opening section, but that was wonderful. So so far so good. We've been able to highlight on the pertinent issues that deals with issues concerning the youth, as well as knowledge of the United Nations. And interestingly, we are proud that His Excellency Ambassador Antonio Mba from Equatorial Guinea was able to give us an overview about the education on United Nations, which most of us or all of us don't know about. So, and also Ambassador Koroma capped it up with the significant reference to the workings of the UN on the youth. So this is taking us to the next agenda of having the representatives of the youth to make a statement in line with the theme and the next step of the regional chapters of Youth Gather Global. So without having much time, I would like to call on the representative of the Caribbean community, the Caribbean region of Youth Gather Global. You have the floor. Can you unmute yourself?
Hello, everyone. So as a youth, I feel like it's important to take initiative. A lot of people that I've talked to.
Excuse me, Melvin, not you yet, please.
Oh,
not you
sorry.
Yet. Ambassador Kestadine. Okay, if it's not on, and we have the representative of North America.
Right here.
Kesley, yes, so please.
Pleasant good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. Dr. Ada, thanks for this opportunity to share on such a touching or sensitive issue of the COVID that is challenging our youths and the concerns of our young people during this COVID pandemic. By asking to speak on this issue, I decided I will do some research, and it leads me to last year's Youth Engagement for Global Actions 2020, and I would like to quote from the part of the report, which states, and I quote, "The COVID-19 pandemic continues to upend the lives of young people around the world in the Caribbean community, CARICOM. Approximately 63% of the population are under the age of 30. Young people in the Caribbean face challenges such as increasing levels of unemployment, as well as underemployment, aspects which often leads to discouragement and disillusionment. Nevertheless, despite these challenges, youth are at the forefront when it comes to stepping up and helping their communities overcome challenges amplified or caused by pandemic." End of quote. Madam Chair, I must submit the challenges of our young people, which stated in that report and up to this day in 2021, still remains unemployment, one of the biggest factors. I dare say some solutions, if I may, should be collective and more so inclusive on every front, meaning government should be in the forefront of this, the corporate, public servants, NGOs, as well as all the other players in this regard for us to fight this dreaded pandemic or COVID-19 virus. I also should suggest that since COVID is here with us, we need to educate our citizens by having rigid programs in place that will educate person with behavioral changes that would help to prevent COVID-19. And this is one of the big things that we should, as young people, we should act upon: prevention. The fact of the matter that COVID is here, but we know that COVID is here, what do we do to prevent this spread from person to person that will lead to death and even serious illnesses? Okay, so I will call on our corporate people to help in the area of scholarship. I will also call on the government to make some monies available via, we call it, I want to say loans, because if you take loans, then you will have to pay it back, right? But some stipend or something that would help our youths to start off with a business. And also by saying that, we put programs in place that would help to educate our young people to see them through with whatever business they may desire to have, because some of them may have the idea, but they don't have the spending power to see the dream that they have come true. So they would need some guidance. Another big aspect of some of the things that challenge our young people is a fair chance or a level playing field in job creation. We find how many young people in the Caribbean are in top positions, such as the president. I could tell you off the bat, the youngest president in CARICOM is in my country, which is Guyana. His Excellency President Irfan Ali. He's the youngest president in the CARICOM. Apart from him, how many more other young presidents are there, or young leaders in major companies or CEOs? A lot of young people, they graduated from University of Guyana, they get their degrees, but after that, what happens? So you find a lot of seniors, and I'm not knocking the seniors here, but I'm saying that our elderly or our seniors need to take our young people and work with them. So when they would have exited, they already have somebody there to hold the fort or to keep the leadership going. And so this is one of the major areas that is lacking in CARICOM. We're not seeing enough young people in top position or in leadership position. And so we need to look at that in this aspect as well. So it must be, as we progress towards this challenge that we face today, which is COVID, that restrict us from many things, such as, you know, the hugs that we were accustomed to, you know, talking with each other without any mask on our faces, and all of these things. It tells on persons emotionally.
We'll tell your representative to round up.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it tells on us psychologically and mentally. So I would say, as a collective effort, in a collective way, with one voice, one action, one approach, we could conquer this thing and work together in the interest of all young people and the country as a whole. So I must say thank you very much for this opportunity once again, and let's continue to support and push our young people to achieve this goal. Thank you.
Thank you, the representative of Caribbean chapter region for the Youth Gather Global, for bringing it to our knowledge about the challenges facing the youth in the Caribbean region, unemployment and other issues he has stated. Thank you, representative, for that information. We call on the representative of North America to take over the stage. Can you unmute yourself, representative of North America?
Hello. Good day, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I don't know if you can see me and hear me.
Seeing you and hearing you very well. You said that
okay.
Not double a bit.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is it
Much
better?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a slide presentation to do. It's a very simple, straightforward slide. Sorry. To share. Can I share? Do I have the right to share?
Yes, you have the right. Go ahead.
Okay. Right. Okay, my name is Success Ekpenyong. I'm currently a student of Business Analytics and Information Systems here at the University of South Florida, with a concentration in Business Intelligence and Data Analyst. I represent the North America. Like we all know, these are the countries that represent North American region in the course of what we're doing today. And I really want to appreciate everyone and all the amazing lectures and presentation, and also appreciate Dr. Ada Okika, the Chancellor, and every other person for this opportunity to be a part of this process. I really want to appreciate all the great men and women around the world who are really making impact, and contributing valuable, impact and presence in those regions. I really, really want to celebrate everyone. Indeed, it's really challenging to think about all of these issues in our generation in this day. So thank you so much. I really celebrate your work and honor your service to humanity. North America is uniquely challenged by certain things. And so some of the challenges that we face, they range from drug addiction, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and this is seriously on the rise. Amidst the many issues facing young people today in North America, and the prosperity, as you might say, drug abuse is, I would say, probably tops the list in what we try to deal with. It has been a big issue. Parents, families, institutions are looking for help to deal with all of this kind of challenges with young people. Educational inequality, like some of you who have lived in the United States can tell that if you live within a particular zip code, you're only entitled to school in some of those regions. And so some people get better schools than other schools. And how do we, how do we move across this certain kind of, because it definitely impairs and impacts and creates a unique division, when it comes to even the development of these young people. Political and social issues. We know how serious this is in the country, how polarized the nation is, and with the effect of media as well, how, the country is the United States, for instance, and yet we're so divided in a lot of ways because of political sentiment and all of that. Now this creates a huge diversion, from even real issues facing young people today. And it's the same across, North America today. These are very strong issues facing young people. Then school violence, from bullying to even gun violence in our schools. And, we can't disregard the possible fears that students go to school with, the protectiveness of parents, just wishing that my daughter or my son who goes to school today is able to come back alive. So those are things that are very strong. And then obesity, abundance of food, yet so many health issues, and all of that. Education inequality. I left number 7, in asterisks because I knew it was going to get us thinking. It's something I don't hear people really talk about, but it's something that was brought to my knowledge, and so I saw in the chat someone was commenting and did talk about while one of our speakers was talking about the girl child, and I really applaud all the amazing work that have been done about the girl child around the world, empowering women, all kinds of opportunities being pushed out there to really make, to see that the women are coming out and becoming all that they can be, having the chance to do so. But on the flip side, there's been a rising statistical conversation on the male child, the rate at which the male child is dropping out of school, not meeting educational requirements, not being steady in society enough as compared to, their female counterpart. It was really shocking when I was brought into a room and this was the conversation. And so I think it's a critical conversation we need to start having. The women have all sorts of services to support them, to encourage them. Women, a lot have been done, and we're really, really grateful for that. And more still have to be done, like we keep talking about. But what we're beginning to see, the trend is that the male child is becoming affected, becoming dangerously affected. And I think it's one of the things, especially in America, we've had starts to this effect, and it's becoming a conversation, and I think it's a good time to face that as well in this decade of action. So some of the relevant SDGs that meet these concerns are good health and wellness, reducing inequalities, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and quality education. And for us, I like to read this quote before I wrap up. It says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." So we believe that it doesn't take a crowd to change a nation. It doesn't take a crowd to transform a society. If people, a small group of people who are thoughtful, who are committed citizens, or committed to the value systems and committed to the change they want to see in that environment, indeed, they can make the change that they decide to do. And finally, going forward, as far as Northern America is concerned, these are some of the things that are in front of us as far as regional engagement. We want to build a strong collaborative process between the national coordinators, myself, and our leaders in the Youth Together, who are working hard to get things done, to put our region in context with regards to the kind of unique issues that we face, and really look at a preferred direction that works for all of us. Another the second is to build structures that uniquely meets our intention in North America. It's really, really different, of course, for other nations, and some of our challenges, could be similar, and some of them are really, really different. And then to increase participation with national coordinators, those who will be helping, will be working with me to ensure some of these issues are being tackled at grassroots level. So those are some of the things that we look up to, and hopefully we'll be able to get that done. That's where I'll be stopping right now. Thank you very much. Stop sharing. Okay.
Yeah, we thank the representative of North America for sharing such in-depth information about situation of youth in North America. This shows that the Youth Together Global have much more work to do in trying to address some of these issues. I'll thank you, the representative of North America. I call on the representative of Africa. You have the floor.
Well, thank you so much, Chancellor, for giving me this opportunity. All the protocols observed. Good evening here in Kenya, in East Africa. I'm Tobias Nauruki, representing Africa. In Africa, Africa has the highest, youngest population in the world, with more than 400 million young people aged between 15 and 35 years, according to the AU released article recently. And in Africa, we have over 54 countries. Some countries were colonized, others were not colonized. An example for a non-colonized country is Ethiopia. And these youth have got several challenges. American representative has shared, African youth are eager to learn. Various countries, just to name but a few, one
I think we've lost him. Network all the way from Kenya.
Kenya is basically
so in addition to drugs and substance use, the African youth face a challenge of political instability. Most countries like Libya, okay now. As I move forward, I was saying that African youth face a lot of challenges, of which African leaders and representatives of the countries we are in Africa, in the African Union conferences, they ought to address the urgency with these matters of urgency on matters drugs and substance use. When we address this issue, it's going to enable the youth in Africa to be able to use the knowledge and skills they get they acquire in schools to be able to use it well in their various jobs. And then secondly, African youth, they are very active young people, they are very active young men and ladies. And because of the challenge of health and sexual reproduction, dear panelists, the youth in Africa, especially our ladies, engage highly in abortion. Abortion has been a problem in Africa. We have lost so many youth in Africa due to abortion. When youth are sensitized, youth are educated on the sense, on the essence of one, accepting themselves, protecting themselves away from early involvement in teenage sexual activities, they will end up succeeding. But because of lack of education to our youth in different countries in Africa, many youth who engage in such, they end up dropping out of schools. We have recorded a number of youth dropping out of schools in Uganda. We have recorded a good number of youth dropping out of schools in Ethiopia and even in Kenya because of early pregnancies. Some die on the way. Thirdly, another challenge that the youth face in Africa is governance, peace, and unity. Many youth are not represented in various country national leadership, and this has been a challenge all along since independence of some countries in Africa. And this issue, as Youth Gather Global Africa, we are going to address this issue so that we may be able to have a good representation of the youth in different leadership positions so that their voice is heard. If we have youth in different countries in Africa, just to name but a few, like in Libya, Libya has had political instability recently in 2019 when the president was assassinated. And then all along we also have had as in Zimbabwe, where a leader assumes a position of presidency and demands to be on that position for long. But when the youth comes together to speak in one voice, all these challenges of leadership, political instability are going to be addressed. Going forward also on development matters in line with SDGs, which in Youth Together Global Africa region, SDGs, the SDGs and the Youth Plan Decade of Action, it addresses education and skills development, which we are going to work on to ensure that the youth in Africa are able to get the skills, network with others, be able to further their studies and learn more knowledge and skills so that their mental problems and challenges we experience as youth in Africa are addressed. Then youth employment and entrepreneurship.
We thank the representative of Africa.
Are facing a lot of challenges in matters job. And that's why at the end of it all, the youth in Africa, after education, you go for masters and you go for PhD. But when you come back to your country, you are not employed because you lack connection or network in the government. And dear panelists,
Tobias,
yes.
Thank
Tobias,
you.
Tobias, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, the representative of Africa for that
Thank you.
Insightful presentation. Without wasting much time, we'll call on the youth representative who has a special poem on SDGs to take the floor. Melvin Sanchez.
Hello, everyone. I just want to thank all the panelists for doing such a wonderful job so far. So as a youth, I think it's very important for us to take initiative. And a lot of people think initiative means changing the world. And you can't change the world overnight. It's the little stuff, going outside, giving someone a sandwich, cleaning up the neighborhood, just little things that makes a difference. So I have a little poem for you guys today. Once upon a time, there was life with no mask. Everything changed and it happened so fast. You can't give a kiss, but you can give a hey, maybe a little wave and a how was your day. It seems like an easy task, but sometimes it's hard to see a smile through a plastic mask. Youth, wake up. It's time to make a change. Spread some positivity or the world will remain the same. We need to step out and play our part. Changing the world takes time, but today should be a start. COVID-19, a disease that is spread. Love is a disease that should be spread instead. If you think you can, then you will. Making the planet better gives you a certain type of thrill. Young people, listen up. We are the voice. We can astonish the world with one little choice. Tomorrow is too late. Now is the right time. We need to get together and start to combine. We are wise, innovative, creative, and more. We can start right outside, then the world to explore. I said it once, I'll say it again. If we get together, we will win. Tomorrow is too late. Now is the right time. We need to get together and start to combine. We are wise, innovative, creative, and more. We can start right outside, then the world to explore. Engage in the talk, and don't be afraid to walk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melvin, for that wonderful poem. Let me say a pleasant good morning, good afternoon, good day to everyone from wherever you're joining us from. Please pardon my tardiness. As Dr. Ada and everyone else know, this is not me. I was supposed to be your moderator, but I had a family emergency today that I had to attend to. So please pardon me. We are at the end of the program, but it would be rude of me not to come and to say a few words. Even though I didn't moderate, I'm fine with that. I'm happy to know that everyone is here and I was listening and it was very, very, very productive. I want to leave you with one thing before Dr. Osita comes. Remember one word: access. Access. As youths, that's something that we don't really have. And many of you might say, oh yes, youths have access. Access in the sense that you could fill it in: access to education, access to jobs based on our profession or based on our education level, access to finances, access to housing, access to healthcare, depending on whichever part of the world you are in, there's some barrier to access. There is some barrier to access where you're concerned. And one of the things that we will have to do as agents of change is open that door so that youth can gain that access that they need. Open that door that youth can gain that access. There are many prominent individuals we have out there, and they have that access for youths to gain that access so that they now can be able to function, that they now can be able to make the necessary contribution. Listen, I'm sorry to knock some to hit some folks, but we have some politicians, and not even politicians, we have some businessmen and women as well who have access to certain things, who are sitting in a position, who are sitting in places that youths of themselves can do a better job. Some of them might not like to hear that, but they can do a better job. They have what it takes to speak to the current situation. They have what it takes to speak now. They have what it takes to contribute to the current situation, the current position that life is in for a lot of us. They have the tools. They have the tools. It's like this. You may have the resource, but you don't have the idea. The youth might have the idea. All you have to do is give the youth that opportunity so that they can use that idea, and you use your resource now to give that youth that push, that open door, that access, so that they now can be able to go and to utilize what they have to help others out there. I had the idea for what I'm doing, but I didn't have the resources. Dr. Ada had the resource. Dr. Finn from Woolmai had the resource. I'm pretty sure if each of you here right now, and those of you listening to us via Facebook, YouTube, wherever, you of yourself can look back right now and say, be it young or old, you can look back and says, hey, if it wasn't for this individual at some given point in time, you would not have been where you are today. And that is what access is. Someone provided the access for you. Someone opened that door for you. Someone saw your potential and give you that opening. Today, that is what is needed for a lot of youths. There's a lot of youths that are well educated, but what? They're not giving that opportunity to function. Hey, like I said, I have nothing against older politicians, but at the same time, give the youths the opportunity. What's the point of a youth going and get a PhD or a master's and can't use it? When my brother, my late brother, when he finished high school and college, he was sitting with a degree and working at a gas station. A gas station. A gas station. Or as we say, a fuel station, depending on wherever in the world you are, whatever you guys call it. He was well educated until the point when he was able to land a teaching job and became the head of a department. But look at it, here it is, you have the knowledge, but yet still you don't have that access. You don't have that open door to go and to utilize it. So with that being said, I just want to leave you with that, to remember and to ponder on it. Think about it. You have access. I have access to a myriad of things. And what I've done, I've opened that doors for other youths to come and utilize it. For those of you ambassadors here for countries, And I'm not just speaking about ambassador representative. I mean, you're literally representing a country, as you are the permanent representative for a country, even down to the United Nations at large. Presidents, kings, queens, princesses, whomever you may be, you have what it takes to give the youths the opportunity to make a change in their community, in their country, in their family's life, in their personal life. They have what it takes to make a change at large. Let's give them that opportunity, that they of themselves can be able to make that contribution. Remember, you have the resource. They have the idea. Give them the shot. Give them a chance. And let them do. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to hand you over now to His Excellency, Prince Dr. Osita, Chairman for Youth Gather Global. Dr. Osita, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, my friend and brother, the Pro-Chancellor for SICA. And I want to also say that your point on access is very well taken, and it's global. Anybody who has access should share it. I want to thank everybody who has been here, Your Excellencies and Your Royal Highnesses. It's been a very wonderful journey, 3-day journey. We started with the youth of our circle in Youth Gather Global being inaugurated. The day after that, we had the first chance to have them speak on the affairs of the different countries that they represented. And today, for closing, we had Brian Smith, the youth advisor and consultant from Guyana. We have Ian Campbell, the CEO founder of Manchester Global Solutions. We have Dr. Jacob Abe, who is the executive director of Jacobs Abe Global Institute for Leadership Studies. We had Dr. Christine Kazichuk, founder Every Girl Wins. And then my sister, Princess Shebi Madlong, managing director for Naledia Chaper Business Consultants in South Africa. My friend, Dr. Devon Bannister, who just spoke. We had His Excellency, Mr. Anatolio Ndongba, the former permanent representative, Mission of Equatorial Guinea to the United Nations. And then former Ambassador Felix Ali from Sierra Leone. We had our representatives, our youths that represented all the regions.
Doctor, point of correction, Ambassador Indok is a permanent representative of Equatorial Guinea to the United, not former.
Sorry, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, Mr. Anatolio Ndongba, the permanent representative of Mission of Equatorial Guinea to the UN. Please, my apologies. Thank you so much, Dr. Ada. Thanks a lot. And then I want to thank you all for this amazing opportunity. My great friend from Grove City College in Pennsylvania, Melvin Sanchez, your poetry has always been something we cherish in Youth Gather Global. Thank you so much, everyone. I will call on Dr. Ada Okika, the Chancellor for Youth Gather Global, to give us the resolution and the outcome for this whole event of 3 days. And then we'll take our closing and appreciation from a member of the Governing Council of the Youth Gather Global. Thank you so much, Dr. Ada. Dr. Ada.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Osita, the chair to the Governing Council of Youth Gather Global. And thank you, Dr. Bannister, who is also a member and an advisory member of the Caribbean region on Youth Gather Global, for your injections into the presentations. So far, so good. We have come to a point of no return. We have been empowered, we have been educated, we have been enriched with knowledge. And the next stage is our line of action And then we are looking at a decade of action. So we must address or continue with the mission of Youth Gather Global with a visible, impactful line of action that will work to engage the youth under our network actively with the decade of action. You are able to have a lecture on this social emotional learning, and this is one of our projects. One of the major project of Youth Gather Global is the cultural social emotional learning. I want to see if I can share this here. Good. So our project has to do with the social, cultural, social emotional learning, and the focus is just like me. With this focus on just like me, we are integrating youth from different regions, and I'm glad that we have regional representatives who were able to share the pertinent concerns regarding youth across the world. So if a youth is looking at himself or herself, and we need to look at the Youth Gather has the responsibility of providing tangible and necessary education, empowerment, entrepreneur, and exchange education. So all our projects on this Youth Gather Global is now geared towards the cultural, social, emotional learning. And the caption is just like me. If we are doing exchange education, we are trying to build on the youth a thought process that make him or her a model. We have a lot of challenges. We had the president of the founder of Every Girl Wins Institute, and the princess from South Africa, where they mentioned the challenges on the girl child, including the representative of Africa, Youth Gather Global. So we are looking at just like me. If you want to be just like me, you have to be all inclusive. You have to be overall in everything you are doing and be a model, so that you'll be a picture to the next generation of youth coming up. So, and through that, we need education. His Excellency, the Ambassador of Equatorial Guinea and Ambassador Koroma were able to give us education about the United Nations General Assembly and its work for the youth. So these are part of education. We also have to be, and when you're educated, you're empowered. And we are taught yesterday, we were able to learn from another ambassador about the entrepreneurial skills. And this is one of the things we are doing in this Youth Gather Global, to provide you skills. Dr. Vanessa gave an example of a challenge of a relation with a PhD and has no job, but to keep and meet, he decided to go into a gas station to work. So it's, instead of taking up guns, instead of taking up prostitution, instead of being victim of trafficking, you have a knowledge, impactful knowledge on skills that even when you are out of school and you don't have a job, you develop your skills and get into something until you are able to get that job you dream for. So the Youth Gather is also preparing the youth to change their thought processes about themselves, and then get into more sustainable activities that can sustain their future and help grow and develop their economic platform. And then the exchange education program is going to help us to do the model United Nations education. And then this is where we keep abreast with the ongoing of the United Nations. Keep up with the leadership skills and other knowledge that we need to make a youth just like me project. So the CCEL, the Cultural, Social, Emotional Learning Project of Youth Gather Global is hereby presented to the public for being for use from this moment in trying to achieve our mission in engaging the world youth to the decade of action. So, and then the other response I have to is to let us know about our outcome from this 3-day meeting. The outcome could be enormous. It could include so much things to do, but the Youth Gather Global Governing Council is going to focus on 5 important aspects. The one is work to provide diplomacy education through model United Nations programs with respect to United Nations General Assembly education, and provide necessary information and knowledge to get the youth, to engage the youth adequately. We're also going to utilize the Youth Gather Global 4 E's, which we have just seen: education, empowerment, entrepreneur, and exchange education, into action-oriented program through training and shadow internships. We are going to utilize the CCEL project, just like me, to work on our programs in regions and chapters, as well as reach out to partners and international agencies. We are going to also utilize entrepreneurship to provide skills for economic growth and development in changing the thought processes of both youth and the girl child. We are going to utilize this cultural, social, emotional project to hold regional summit on leaders, diplomacy, and model United Nations education camps to enable youth members expand their global horizon and obtain opportunities to make wider choices. So I think with these 5 resolutions from this 3-day meeting, we are able to set up the machinery on the Youth Gather 4E mission into motion, especially working towards having practicable programs and action-oriented actions that can help the youth to address their future. We are talking about decade of action. We are talking about sustainable future. We are talking about empowering them instead of leaving them out to be drop out from school, just as Representative of Dr. America mentioned, drop out of schools, not having a vision, a positive future for themselves. The address is leave no one behind. And the mission of United Nations, leave no one behind, has led us to this Youth Gather Global. And we want to get all youth on board. Let's get on board, children of the world, to get your future more sustainable. I thank you. Back to you, Dr. Bannister. Oh, Dr. Oster, back to you.
I need to call on the Director of Programs for Youth Gather Global, Her Excellency Ambassador Laila Rao. Ambassador Laila, are you there, Your Excellency?
Before then, we have a youth country coordinator for Nepal. Can you just introduce him? Aja Shah. Please. Where is Aja Shah? Can you come and introduce yourself? We want to know you.
Hello.
Yes.
Good afternoon, ma'am. All of you. It's me, Ozzy Patapsa from Nepal. Hello. Is everyone hearing?
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Just now I'm here from Nepal, and in Nepal we are facing so many problem of youth nowadays. due to pandemic period of COVID-19 and so on. So now in our Nepal country, youth are very systematically in all sector, but not in government sector. So we are all represent you to say that youth in Nepal nowadays is not our government is not providing properly education and their timeline to proper use of their life guidance, so on. So I'm I'm so glad to catch you all in this youth of United Nations, UN, and from that, so it's a bit estimates. Thank you, Prophet.
Thank you. Dr. Storm, mute yourself, please.
Okay, thank you very much. The country Nepal representative, we are very glad to have you with us. After this meeting, I'm going to send you our corporate literature, and I'm going to send you a formal letter, accepting your kind offer to be our representative in Nepal, and then we'll take it from there. You have been formally admitted, and I want to welcome you wholeheartedly to Youth Gather Global Family. When we visit Asia, Nepal will be our first port of call. Welcome and thank you, and God bless you.
It's my pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Allah.
I can't find my colleague, Ambassador Laila. And so I guess I'll have to be the one also to say, Dr. do you have anything more to add to what you've said so far?
No.
Okay. Okay. Let me, on behalf of Youth Gather Global, thank each and every one of you. Your Excellency, Dr. Monica Sanchez, I've been watching you from here. Yes, thank you. Thank you. You are my best sister, and I love what you do. Thank you so much. Thank you. I want to thank everybody. My brother from North America, Success Ekwenyong, thank you so much for all you've been doing, and thank you for today. That was a brilliant contribution that you made today. My representative from Ghana, my friend and brother, Dr. Divon Banista, the rep from Antigua, Ambassador Felix Ali. I thank you so much, my brother. God bless you. God has always been with you. Thank you very much, everyone else. We appreciate this, but I won't forget to thank Melvin Sanchez, my rep from Africa, from Kenya, from East Africa, and my friend, my very good friend and sister, Mary Kurek, who has always worked with me for as long as I can remember. The rep from the Caribbean, thank you. Thank you so very much. This has been a family affair, and for 3 days we've been together. Please, we're going to come back to you, calling on you to join us again. Don't say no to us. Thank you so much. This is Youth Gather Global. We have 10 years to go. God bless you all. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you.
ECOSOC Youth Forum. Youth and Decade Action. We are going to translate the Sustainable Development Goals.
Hey.
SDG number 1, no poverty. SDG number 2, zero hunger.
3.
SDG number 3, good health.
SDG number 4, decent work and economic growth. Sikasi Sendai nende uchumi kuendelea.
SDG number 5, reduce inequality. SDG number 6, responsible production and consumption. SDG number 7, climate action. Mlin Vishibala Menya Horaka Sala. Peace, justice, strong institutions. Mirembe, wall
An African baby. Yes. The future generation. Yeah.
Mom, Angali. Wow.
A very courageous young one. Huh?
Ngoja mama. SDG number 9, partnership for the goals. It's our responsibility. Hooray!
Wow.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Yeah. Thank you so much. To avoid the long list of greetings, I'm going to keep it simple. All protocols observed. I am a privileged individual. There is nothing special about me, who I am, what I do, or what I've experienced. I've grown up with comfort, clean water, a sense of peace and security, and both the access and the resources to obtain a quality education. I am privileged. And yet still, for a large majority of my life, I stumbled around with a sense of unease, a feeling of discontent. You see, my parents, like an increasing number of people in the world, were refugees. They left Eritrea in a time of war, took a winding path that eventually led to me being raised here in the United States. And yet still, I knew every day of my life that there was something wrong with this story.
Welcome everyone to the webinar organized by the Major Group for Children and Youth, UNCTAD, and the ILO Prosperity. Before we start, let me introduce some event rules. Your microphones will be muted by the host and open for the Q&A sections. When speaking, please state your name and country. At any time, bring your questions and comments to presenters and panelists through the chat room. We will do our best to bring them to their attention as we go. I will also open the floor at different times during the session, so you can bring your questions live, in which case, please be ready to present and speak up. As we start this exciting event, we invite you to participate in our poll. As you do that, I will open the conversation with some reflections about one of the greatest challenges our society faces today, financing a job-rich recovery. The poll will be a prompt in the Zoom application for your information. And well, first, we need to know there is a moral obligation of states to fund rights for everyone, including socioeconomic development. This might be the simplest definition of financing for development, which is something that we'll be discussing in this session. We have always had the need to fund socioeconomic development, but currently we face additional challenges in a post-COVID scenario. And everyone asks, what can we do to recover? Building back better is easier to say than done. It requires funding and thus willingness from all sectors to work together for public goods and not just for their own interests. But however, it is clear that we can start to alleviate the economic situation of people around the world while promoting decent jobs, because the pandemic has led to global recession, but the effects are disproportionately shared. Extreme poverty has gone up in low and middle income countries. And inequality in many countries have made it worse for groups living in vulnerable conditions like children, youth, women, LGBTI plus people, and elderly people. And a decent job can change dramatically someone's living condition by just providing social security and a steady income. With this in mind, I would like to welcome to the session to Nusimo. As in preparation to today, organized jointly 2 consultations with young people, And we would love to hear about the challenges they echoed towards the financing for development agenda and thus to building better together. So without further ado, please, Nusimo, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having me. Your Excellencies, honorable delegates, ladies and gentlemen, in leading up to the stakeholders on the Sustainable Development Agenda, in leading up to this discussion we are going to have today, we held a number of consultations with young people across the world in order to be able to understand their standpoint, grievances and challenges when it comes to the Sustainable Development Agenda and the COVID-19 pandemic that we find ourselves in the midst of. During these consultations, it was evident and very abundantly clear that there are two things that really stand out and we've got to be aware of. Firstly, that the intellectual and academic discussion and argument for a sustained world, a world that is just and a world without any inequality, where there is inclusive economic growth, is an argument that we've won and everybody has bought into it. On the other hand, there is a real understanding that COVID-19 has given us immense things to think about with regards to the regression of the work that we have done. We really are at a point where there is a number of necessary work and things that we have to do in order to be able to achieve their sustainable development goals in time. Otherwise, we face an immense we face an immense challenge with the Sustainable Development Agenda. In leading up to today's discussion,
itself in 15 countries and at least 4 continents, and has achieved some success in improving the skills mismatch and advocating with governments for an enabling policy environment. I recall Deloitte's Butterfly Effect Project, which is an initiative by women to inspire other women that has also achieved some success, similar to Project Promociona by the Spanish Confederation of Business Organizations in Spain, which has so far provided mentorship to over 1,000 women from 600 companies, many of whom have gone on to receive C-suite appointments and other types of promotions. While these examples show that some success have been achieved in various pockets, my opinion is that we need tripartite commitment to duplicate these successes on a much wider scale and a much faster rate. And with that, I'll end there and hand back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronald. And it is very important what you mentioned, and I would like to link what you said with the poll results, because depending on where you are, employers and the private sector would usually feel things around the COVID recovery a little bit different. So I would just like to probably highlight that there's a very interesting indicator that is the Gini coefficient that usually measures inequality. So probably we can start to use this type of, indicators like the Gini coefficient or the Palma ratio that show us how and where we could probably start to redirect all of these partnerships and fiscal, strategies in order not to set all of the heavy weight to only one sector, but rather, redirect it and smoothly transitions all over the Lawrence curve. So I would now like to hand over the word to our amazing facilitator, moderator, Viridiana, that is back to us with in this moment. So please, Viri, transition to our next speaker.
Thank you, Saul. I would like to introduce to you Amelie Mariache. She is from the UN Foundation Next Generation Fellow. And I would like to ask you, Emily, we have talked about national efforts towards an inclusive recovery. Let us now move to the global scale and reflect on our responsibility and commitment for others. During the pre-session consultations with young people, they mentioned we're still far from globalized action. What policies are needed to unlock fiscal space, particularly in developing countries, and what is required of the global community to channel more financial resources to reduce inequalities within and between countries? The floor is yours, Emily.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure to share the screen, not the floor, with you all. And so this is a very good question. And I think I can try to answer it in just one concept, which is global solidarity. I mean, we are facing a global crisis. We all know about that. So, and the fact is that COVID-19 is not only challenging our global health system, but I think it's really testing our commune humanity, let's say. And I really think that the decision that we are taking as people and the decision that governments are taking right now will really shape the world. And, there is, I think, a very important question here that is like, what kind of change do we really want to see as global community? And I think at least this is one of the important questions that all the young people, especially the young people that are present today and participating and engaging in ECOSOC Forum, because I think that we are really aware of all what is happening around us, and we are really concerned about the fact that how can we help, how can we contribute, how can we have a say, and all these decisions that actually government and big organizations are taking to fight COVID. And I really think that, COVID and all these big storm will pass. And at the same time, I really think that the society never have such a better opportunity to rethink and to fast forward a stronger and inclusive recovery, and also to invest, as panelists also said, in more sustainable, greener, and resilient future. And to go deeper in your question, inequality within and amongst country, it's a persistent cause, and I think it's not something new, and especially when we are talking about finance. And despite of a very positive sign or in some dimension that, we have a problem in it, and it's the fact that the inequality still persists. And I'm not really an expert on the subject of finance. I'm just a social entrepreneur, a young leader, and I think probably other panelists can better answer on that question. I mean, Saya pretty well answered to it, talking about the difference between funding and investing and long-term innovation. Anna and Roberto too, when they were talking about, putting a special focus on closing digital gap, on creating a new deal, greener, circular, and also the care economy. And above all, putting a focus also on education as catalyst for change, entrepreneurship also. I mean, this is so important, and for young people too, and also the pool result about inclusion. So I think almost everything is said, and I think there is another really important reflection. And for me, it's like a big challenge that we are all facing. And it's not only talking about inclusive recovery, but broadly, it's that we will have to choose at state level, higher level, and let's call it about like nationalist isolation versus global solidarity and citizen and youth empowerment. And I think in this sense, the we is always more powerful than the I. And a better world can only happen if we believe in our responsibility to make it happen. And I really hope that and I think I'm talking on behind of all the next generation philo and youth people here today. I really hope that we will be able to push forward and to adopt the path of global solidarity and collaboration among all the stakeholders around the table, because I really think this is the only solution. Thank you.
This scenario, of course, that's
Thank you all. Thank you all. And
a key point to move forward.
Hope to see you
So now
next time.
transitioning to